morning, everybody. So it's super easy to follow Bill now, isn't it? So I hope you brought the other part of your brain. It comes a little bit of a different presentation. But building on what Bill said, to a good life, it belongs joy and beauty and a strong heart. So how strong is the heart of this industry? The Global Fashion Agenda and BCG, we have taken the pulse of the industry. To do that, we have, based on the Sustainable Apparel Coalition HIG Index and a survey with fashion executives and a series of interviews, we have created the first comprehensive baseline on performance and sustainability and environmental issues. This pulse score, it's supposed to be a common fact base to start the dialogue from. And it gives an indication of how is the industry doing by size, by type of company, by value chain stage, and by other different cuts. It's a wealth of data. So overall, it's no surprise for anybody here worldwide, the pulse of the industry, the heartbeat is not very strong. We are talking about a score of 32 out of 100, with several dimensions way below that. When we analyze how is this performance and where it comes from, there is a wide spread, which is, in principle, good news. The main driver of performance is not price point, it is company size. It means that big enterprises are able to score better along the several dimensions. When we go into small and medium enterprises, the pulse drops quite dramatically. We could actually argue that that part of the industry that covers around 50% of the market is a blind spot considering sustainability. When we look at the value chain stages, how is the performance there? You can see that in parts of the production process, design and production process, where companies can improve on their own, the scores are better. For example, in design and development, where a design team can decide which fabric to use. When you go to end of use or raw materials at the very beginning, in parts where collaboration and cross-industry standards would be needed, the scores are much lower. Certainly, there are specific parts of the chain, like, for example, health and safety, where the spotlight has been on for several years now. Media is interested, and of course, there is some regulatory scrutiny. The scores there are, not surprisingly, a little better.
Thank you. The good news is, if you turn this weak pulse score on its head, it means the fashion industry is facing a massive improvement opportunity for creating large-scale social and environmental change, and thereby strengthen our industry. And it has the power to create this change. Last year, the fashion industry generated 1.5 trillion euros in revenues, and it employs 60 million people. That's every third manufacturing job in key production countries. For centuries, the fashion industry has created joy for people around the world. It's a tremendous source of creativity. And by its very nature, the fashion industry enjoys massive visibility and public admiration. Our opinion leaders and our trendsetters have further reach and influence than ever before. We're perfectly positioned to lead the conversation on sustainability. There you go, lots of creativity, or something. We estimate that if the fashion industry takes the baton for leading the transition towards a sustainable model of production and consumption, it has the opportunity to generate 160 billion euros of annual value by 2030. That's 160 billion euros from limiting its environmental and social impacts. 160 billion euros from doing things differently. And let's be clear that now is the time to take action. Business as usual is simply no longer an option. By 2030, global consumption of fashion will increase from 62 million tons today to a staggering 102 million tons. That's almost double the volume. and it's equivalent to 500 billion t-shirts, enough fabric to cover the entire country of Bangladesh. And it's simply more than what the Earth can handle without significant damaging impacts. If we continue business as usual, pressures on natural resources and social conditions will intensify to the point of threatening our industry growth itself. We'll face questions like whether to use water for cotton production or for supplying clean drinking water to some regions of the world, because there won't be enough to do both. Or we may let consumer sentiment or regulatory action be dictated by one-off reports by the media. Some of you know what I'm talking about, and it's no fun. If we continue business as usual, our industry's financials will come under massive pressure. By conservative estimates, the expected impact on our industry's profitability is a reduction of 3 percentage points in average profit levels across the board. Let me put that into perspective for you. It means that for an average fashion business with a profit margin of 10%, they're at risk of losing a third of their entire profits to, amongst others, rising costs of natural and human resources. And that effect could very well be several times higher if unforeseen events happen. Let's say regulators would step in and, for example, start taxing water or energy, factoring in the true cost of negative environmental externalities. In other industries, similar circumstances have led to major disruptive impacts. Just think of the automotive industry, for instance, where there are now caps enforced on CO2 emissions of new cars, or the consumer electronics market, where electronics producers have been made responsible for the collection and recycling of end-of-life equipment. Such scenarios are not wholly unrealistic in the fashion industry. Fortunately, many fashion companies are already showing the way towards a sustainable and profitable way of doing business. They factor in their dependency on people and planet into their business strategies. The Pulse score reveals that top performers reach on average 62 out of 100 in sustainability performers, while bottom performers reach only 11. That's a significant spread. These top performers show us that reaching higher levels of sustainability is possible, and it's possible already today. These companies have been frontrunners in realizing what our research shows to be true, that sustainability makes good business sense. They've managed to produce more competitive products, building their brands while managing their footprints, or they may have seen cost reductions, reduced negative reputational risk, or increased staff retention. Let me try and give you a few examples. Lee and Fung have seen productivity increases of up to 18% in Cambodia from implementing a workplace program promoting health, financial inclusion, and gender equality. H&M collects 25 to 30 truckloads of clothing for recycling every day from their stores in Germany alone. And Kering is well on its way to making metal-free tanning of leather cost-efficient.
So all these efforts, 32 might not be very good news, but 11 versus 62, it is good news. So all these efforts deserve our admiration and support. They for sure increase the pulse of the industry. If the segment that is right now at 11 will imitate those that are at 62, we will definitely increase the average much higher. We estimate that approximately by doing that, by lifting the average to where the leaders are today, half of the opportunity of the 160 billion that we mentioned before could be achieved. What is clear, though, is that if we want to go for the full opportunity, for the 160, we need to do some things different. To do something different, it means that we have to collaborate and innovate. And to make that clear, we have, based on the Pulse report and the Pulse results and the learnings, we have created a first version of a landscape for change. In this landscape for change, along several dimensions, we have indicated on the left side which parts, which initiatives you could do already today that are proven, that the leaders are doing, and that bring value to the planet and for these companies. There are a lot of them right there. Then we have said, yes, but to close the gap, why don't we try to set ambitions, targets? What if we will go full way? And to go full way, we have envisioned a first version, again, of a roadmap, we could get there. And when you look through it, what is needed to do there? What is needed to go there is leadership, collaboration, and innovation. We need to be able together to come to solutions that do not exist today. Right? We need to find a way to reduce the dependence or to substitute conventional cotton. Right? We need to find a way to solve the end-of-use recycling issue. We should be able, at some point, to pay fair wages to everybody working in the industry. Right? And we should to keep innovating to find the Netflix of fashion, or the Tinder, or whatever our consumers will want. Right? And that brings me to the last point that I wanted to make. It is that we have to do all of this while thinking of the consumer. Right? We need to keep educate them then, and inform them. And we need to keep inspiring them. You know, sustainability has to be fashionable.
So we now know why we need to start doing things differently. We know the opportunity that is at stake, and we want to capture the full opportunity. And we hopefully understand a little bit better what we need to start doing next. We now urge the industry to take the lead on this transformation. Regulators should support, motivate, and help amplify the impact through supportive regulation. We also know that the full opportunity cannot be captured through scattered individual efforts alone. Only through collaboration can we drive the innovation that's necessary to find new solutions. Only through collaboration can we go beyond incremental improvements and realize the full opportunity of sustainable fashion. We therefore call on all fashion industry leaders, including all of you sitting in this room today, and there are many of you, fortunately, to come together and join forces, come together around this common agenda, and collaborate on concentrating time, money, and effort into the solutions that will make a better fashion industry. We have the creativity, we have the strength, and we have the influence to do this. Together, we can improve the pulse of our industry. It's time to start acting differently for a world beyond next season.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.